It's time to learn the absolute truth about using the N word. Here are the absolute facts. We did not make the N word ours, and using it does not empower us. I will not be silenced to appease black ignorance, especially when it's black ignorance that give the white oppressors their greatest power over us. I'd rather lose black friends for telling the black liberating truth than to endorse ignorant beliefs in order to hold on to ignorant, mentally enslaved black friends. A speaker of truth has no friends. African proverb. This video will tell the truth about using the N-word. People's behaviors aligns with what they've been made to believe. Therefore, people can be misled to believe false things that are deliberately designed to negatively impact their communities. This is the case in regards to the N-word. We did not make the N-word ours, and using it does not empower us. Ask anyone who claims that we made the N-word ours and that using it empowers us. Ask them to prove it. Ask them how do they know that claim that we made it ours is true. They cannot give you an answer because the claim is totally untrue. Those falsehoods were fed into our communities and subsequently fed into our collective minds by white propagandists. The reason why millions of African Americans believe that is true because it's been repeated so often. Repetition makes lies appear more truthful. This is what social scientists calls the illusionary truth effect. Now, the second reason why millions of African Americans self-identify by the N-word is because of what's called the herd mentality. The herd mentality is a tendency for people's behaviors and beliefs to conform to those of the group for which they belong, regardless of how ridiculous those beliefs may be. Yes, even intelligent people can be made to engage in ignorant, idiotic behaviors when everyone else around them appears to also be doing the same. This is what's called being captured in the herd mentality. Our culture is being negatively steered by white oppressive forces. Not all wars are fought on the battlefield. Most are fought in the mind. It's a fact that most black people must learn in order to emancipate our minds from white mental slavery. This is why those who know must teach. African proverb. Presently, there are white government agents that specialize in psychiatry and propaganda that works unrelentingly behind the scenes, manipulating the collective minds of the black masses. These white men govern our minds, molds our opinions, and shapes our perceptions in ways that serves and protects the system of white supremacy. It was these men that manipulated millions of us to self-identify ourselves by the N-word through what's called negative media social engineering. Most people naively believe that the media reflects our reality, but in truth, it's most often we that imitate and learn what the media shows us. A group's identity is shaped by how they see themselves repeatedly depicted within the media. This is because people often becomes those media depictions of themselves that they've accepted as being their reality, even the derogatory depictions of their group. Therefore, those who controls a people's media images are able to negatively steer their culture. It was originally by hiring black actors to repeatedly call themselves by the N-word within those white-produced black exploitation films that millions of African Americans were initially manipulated, socially engineered, to self-identify ourselves by the N-word. We saw it on the screen and we started repeating it. Now, when black people self-identify by the N-word and we call each other by the N-word, this actually negatively impacts our communities at a psychological level. Because words have power over the subconscious mind. Words, when repeated often enough, shapes our thoughts, and a thought, when held long enough, becomes a belief. A belief then becomes your biology. We psychologically become the words that we repeatedly call ourselves. It's the reason why men that call themselves thugs are more likely to engage in a fight than to avoid one. It's also why women that proclaim themselves as being bitches often become stubbornly unreasonable. We subconsciously, psychologically become the words that we repeatedly call ourselves. It's a psychological phenomenon that white social engineering scientists have thoroughly studied. The reason why they socially engineered us to self-identify ourselves by the N-word, because it actually benefits the system of white supremacy. Because to subjugate and control a large targeted population, the first step is to neutralize their alpha males, aka those possessing warrior spirits. These are also those males that are psychologically wired to protect our women and to defend our communities. White social engineering scientists neutralize black alpha males by socially engineering millions to self-identify ourselves by the N-word. When we repeatedly call ourselves by the N-word, this conditions us to perceive ourselves through a false, inherent, inferior identity that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance and control over us. Have you ever noticed that those African Americans who refuse to be called by the N-word tend to carry themselves with a higher degree of self-respect, as well as they command more respect than those who routinely call themselves by the N-word? The truth is that calling ourselves by the N-word actually conditions us to perceive ourselves through a false, inherent, subordinate identity that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance and social capital over the black population. When we call each other by the N-word, this also causes us to dehumanize each other. This makes it much more easier to divide our ranks and makes it easier for us to mistreat each other. This is a fact that the military has known for many centuries. Case, point, and proof. During the Vietnam War, as well as during the Korean War, to ease the American soldiers' anxieties about torturing and killing those Vietnamese and Korean soldiers, the American soldiers were taught to refer to them by negative, derogatory Asian terms. This dehumanized the Asian soldiers in the minds of the American soldiers, which made it easier to kill and torture them. This is what happens to us when we call somebody N-word. Case, point, and proof. Have you ever listened closely whenever a black man speaks of a previous attack against another black man? As he presents the detail of the attack, he will say, I hit that and I kicked that and I shot that and etc., etc. The N-word is actually being used to dehumanize his victim. However, if you then ask the speaker to retell the details of the attack, but this time replacing the N-word with my brother, he will find it difficult to then tell the story. It becomes psychologically more difficult to tell it. He will start actually struggling to tell the story. The more brutal that his behavior was, the more difficult it becomes to tell the story without dehumanizing his victim. The speaker might even get angry and ask those who are those and demand that he be able to tell the story while dehumanizing the victim. When we assign negative words upon others, we dehumanize them, which makes it easier to mistreat them. This is also why they've socialized many black men to refer to women as B's and H's. Take notice, men who routinely call women by the B word and the H word have a greater tendency of mistreating them. Men who rarely use the word tend to respect women more. White oppressive forces have placed an elaborate negative spell upon our subconscious minds by the N-word and other derogatory words we use. The white prison industry is filled with black men that have been programmed to believe that their real ends. White social engineering scientists deliberately program millions of black people to believe that we are by the N-word to achieve this mental enslaving agenda. When we call ourselves by the N-word, this also separates us from our unifying African heritage. Without having a base identity to connect our vast cultural wealth, over time we become further fragmented as a people, and we actually become weaker as a people. we can then be made into anything the white oppressors wants us to be. Self-identifying ourselves by the N-word psychologically also divides us from Native Africans. When we Africans in America are divided from Africans, we lose our global numeral advantage. We are not, and we also become, and we lose all hope of defeating global white supremacy. Every couple of decades or so, white propaganda creates and feeds false information into our communities that are designed to keep us calling ourselves by the N-word. Several years back, they created a narrative that changing the spelling to Nigga empowers us. But that's a lie. Any spelling by the N-word doesn't change it because the subconscious mind doesn't see the different spelling. The latest propaganda they've spread into our communities is that we should call ourselves niggas. Negus, which sounds very much like the original word because it's an ancient Ethiopian word meaning king. However, critically think and look at the following facts. There are in fact literally more than 2,000 languages and dialects in Africa. And each one of those languages and dialect has at least 3 to 4 words that means king. Given with so many thousands of words also meaning king, don't you therefore find it a little suspicious that the only one of those words that are being spread throughout our communities is the word niggas, the one that just happens to sound like the original N-word? Come on now, wake up. To believe that this is merely some incredible coincidence is extremely naive. Clearly, the word niggas is being used, deliberately misused, to keep the black communities functioning under the original terminology of the N-word because the subconscious mind doesn't see the different spelling. For example, if we discovered that the word shit was an ancient word meaning king, you wouldn't name your child shit because the negative connotation that follows the word shit still exists. We must stop being so gullible when it comes to the white man's propaganda. You know, our problem is that they have made the ignorant ones overconfident, and therefore the intelligent ones feel intimidated, and we remain quiet. And this allows the ignorant beliefs of the ignorant ones to prevail throughout our communities, keeping our people's minds trapped in misinformation, disinformation, and therefore mentally enslaved. It is time to wake up to our reality. There's a war being waged against us, and you have to learn disinformation warfare. The white society uses disinformation warfare against black people, and disinformation warfare can be used as a weapon of mass destruction. It's why our people are drowning in so much different idiotic ideologies designed to keep us confused and divided. It's why millions today say we're not from Africa, although countless millions of us have taken DNA analysis that have scientifically confirmed our African identity. It's why millions of us are now saying that we're the true Jews of the Bible, although if you study the Bible's easily proven work of fiction, the fact that the Bible, written by our most ungodliest enemies and was brutally beaten into the minds of our ancestors, does not provide our salvation. We have to elevate our minds. Our minds have been dumbed down through the white society's monopoly over information. And so we must wake up to our reality. One love and peace.